to Retro Rebound.
In today's video, we are going back to the Lord of the Rings movie games. What a special time this was. Remember when tie-in games would just surprise you out of nowhere? Like, oh, I love Lord of the Rings. Oh, I love Two Towers, Return of the King. I could go with a little video game on the side. Sure, why not? You pick it up. Oh, wow, this is brilliant. This is awesome. Like, for me, Lord of the Rings and the Two Towers is a childhood staple, and I'll naturally explore that here in this video, but these games really embody to me the definitive tie-in games right next to something like X-Men Origins Wolverine, where you're picking it up just because you're a fan of the movie or you're into a little bit of what the movie's doing, you want to see how a game explores that, and it just knocks your socks off in ways that you don't anticipate. So yeah, today we're talking about the Lord of the Rings movie games because Rings of Power Season 2 is soon upon us, and I know some people are like, on Rings of Power, so in one instance, I thought this would be a fun video to do to remind you of the good old days, but for those of you who are Middle-earth diehards, this is for you to celebrate. So I thought that this could get all of us together on the same page for once in talking about just how awesome these video games are. And with that, if you're new here and you're into nostalgic and retrospective content, consider subscribing. So where do we begin? Two Towers, Return of the King? No, we're gonna begin with The Fellowship of the Ring, the game on PS2 that has nothing to do with the movie. So this was an interesting one for me to re-explore. When playing it, I went, this doesn't remind me of the movie at all. This feels very, as someone who started reading the Middle-earth books, very book-coded. And it was interesting because what actually happened here with Fellowship of the Ring is it released weeks from where Lord of the Rings Two Towers was releasing. So what you have here is a game that was adapting the books at the same time a game was adapting the movies, and both were dropping around the same point in time. So in Fellowship of the Ring, this is not the epic combat and music that you've come to know and love with Lord of the Rings. What you're actually getting here is the more stealth-focused experience. A little bit of Fable energy, if you will. It's not bad, but I wouldn't say it's fantastic. One of my favorite things about it is the visuals and its environment and its diversity. Like, you can run around Hobbiton and you can read the signs and they all have street names and all of the houses have addresses. Like, it's really cool, the level of detail found here. You can talk to NPCs and they all have a variety of things to say. Like, it's very surprising how in-depth this is and how different this game is to the one that was releasing mere weeks away from it. The combat and lock-on cameras just do not feel that great in this game. But yeah, it just is one of those funny instances where you look at it and you think, oh, it's a tie-in game to the movie, especially with the timing of what it was released as. But no, it is actually not. It's a adaptation of the book. So the real remembering of the movie games for Lord of the Rings begins not with Fellowship of the Ring, but with Two Towers, which does try to follow closely with the movie's narrative. Now, one style of cutscene that they do in these games, less so in Return of the King, but more so here in Two Towers, is you'll see clips of the movie and then they'll convert into the in-game cutscenes, or the in-game cutscenes will set up a brief part of the scene and then there will be a quick transition to the movies. And I normally had issues growing up with just getting the movie retold to me, but because of these little clips sprinkled in there, it did so much for me personally. Like, I love that they had that little touch of style there, although it was really just smart game development, frankly. The other thing I loved about this game, and I didn't realize until I picked it up for like the millionth time, is that they throw you right into it. Like, you can see here, some of the cutscenes that are rolling behind me and the movie footage that ends up subsequently rolling behind me ends up leading into the first battle of the game. And I love that they do this because back then you'd put the game in, you'd fire it up, and there was no new game or anything like that. It completely bypassed that until you went and loaded the game again and started anew. So the first time you fire this game up, it just rips you right into the action, right into the intensity of Lord of the Rings. And I always gotta say, that has been an effective thing that I'm realizing now, and it's so appreciated because it just doesn't even feel like a game. It just pulls you right into all the combat, all the things you love about this universe. It also is a wonderful template for what's to come with Return of the King. One of the things I loved about Two Towers was that you would have a mission rating system, and it was ranked on like poor, good, perfect, excellent, and these were all rankings you get based on how you killed the orcs and the Uruk-hai. Like, it depended on how many combos you're stringing together, how many kills in a row, what type of moves are you doing, are you mixing up your moves, these sorts of things. It was very easy, easier than I ever remembered in Two Towers, to just get to a perfect level and just rake it in. But what was also really cool, what I loved doing as a kid, was trying to get perfect on every mission with each character. And there were some missions where certain characters were better than others. Like I remember there were missions I got stuck on with Legolas that I thought Gimli was better because he'd hit a little bit harder, he'd have more knockdown power. There aren't massively diverse playstyles here. You're really just playing as different movie characters with effectively roughly similar movesets. But there were certain missions that you could complete with all of them, but they were easier with others. And so I love that level of experimentation as a kid. Each character has their own level, so as you're doing all these missions and you're getting all these different rankings, they're going to basically convert into experience points that you're going to spend on moves. This is where things do really shake up a little bit, in that you'll have all these different combos, and that's where also building up the perfect meter gets a little bit too easy compared to what they do in Return of the King. So in this game, like you can whiff on combos, but pull one off, and it'll just gradually climb that perfect meter more and more. And when you're at perfect, the problem with that and it being imbalanced is everyone dies in one hit. Now, Two Towers throws a massive amount of enemies at you constantly. So there are moments where I think it really does work in its advantage, but there are sometimes it just completely neuters the challenge. And so it's so funny to be saying that because back then, this game just beat the crap out of me constantly. For example, there's this like general you fight in a boss fight, and I did not know how to figure this out as a kid. Like he's just swinging at you rapidly, and his weapon's supposed to get stuck in one of the pillars. Now, what the game teaches you to do is parry. Like you're always going to be parrying by pressing the square button. And so then you get to this boss fight and he's swinging at you and you're thinking you're gonna parry, and he just kills you and knocks you over again and again and again. And as a kid, didn't get that until he just incidentally got stuck, and then you just mow him down over and over. I tried to use ranged weapons on him. That kind of worked. So yeah, just a long way of saying this game beat the crap out of me constantly. I also just love the atmosphere of Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, like where you're going through the swamps or the mines of Moria. Just, there are moments where this game combined with its music is so tense and almost, I would say, unnecessarily atmospheric. I do think even the voice performances here and the individual actors and actresses reprising their roles from the movies here. I've covered a lot of Spider-Man games here on the channel, so it's a great example of how sometimes those performances where it's more visual does not translate well into video games, or it's more vocal, but you can really feel the amount of talent in all of these people with this game, because I thought that their on-screen performance translated really well into video game format. Like when you're fighting off the wraiths and like your friend is like, there's so many of them. Like it's intense. Like this game gave me anxiety as a kid, and that was awesome. Except then I got into adulthood. It wasn't as awesome. So as you're going through this game, you'll have these missions, and as you get deeper into the game, you'll see moments where like bonus features unlock and you can learn more about the movie. That was the other thing that was really cool. Like I loved Lord of the Rings growing up, so I loved to learn more about the movie, and you would get like behind the scenes looks at things. So it kind of let you unlock like the extra disc on a DVD effectively at the same time as being rewarded for playing through the game. Very common shtick that you would find in, you know, video games based on movies, but still appreciated. And you just go through this mission map all the way until the end. So let's go ahead and take a look at Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, complete in box, and then we're going to transition on over into Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. First things first, we have Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers for PlayStation 2. Love this cover art, of course. $1.50. This was from CEX, as you can see here. Never removed these stickers. There's a little bit of nostalgia. This is where it kind of marked me rebuilding my game collection. And I went to a CEX, which I don't know if they're even in business anymore. They certainly weren't around my area anymore, but they had games for dirt cheap, and so they would actually come like complete in box. Like my copy of Naruto Uzumaki Chronicles came with like the trading card and everything. It was like $1. So yeah, they sold games for really cheap since collecting's gone up. Like this isn't a super expensive game, but it's definitely more than $1.50. So I just use that as a reminder of the good old days. Anyway, as you'll see here, there's a little silver sticker. We'll get into that a little bit with Return of the King, but it's pretty much marking what is official Lord of the Rings property and products, and you'll see that throughout everything that we ever shown on this channel with Lord of the Rings. But the back of the box says, decide the fate of Middle-earth. Join the Fellowship, play as Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli in this epic adventure. Upgrade your character and new moves and weapons. Unlock a secret character and level. Who could it be? Defeat the Dark Lord's minions. Battle through locations of the first two films, including the defense of Helm's Deep. Fight orcs, Uruk-hai, ring wraiths, and more, plus exclusive movie content, as I discussed, with scenes from the film The Two Towers, soundtrack from Fellowship of the Ring, and exclusive interviews with the stars of the film, which I thought was a really cool unlock system. Here on the inside, you have exactly what you expect from me, the manual as well as the disc. Now, is it illustrated? No. Yeah, unfortunately not. And really missed opportunity here, as I always say, because I think a Lord of the Rings illustrated manual would have been cool, but they break down all the controls here. You do have a knockback button I didn't talk too much about, and killing moves, so you could like knock someone down. It's part of your combos. So you could do like X circle R2 and knock someone down and then stab the ground. It was pretty cool. They also have a breakdown of what the One Ring is. So for those who are not caught up on the lore, you could just take that moment to do so. And Middle-earth and the Fellowship. So a little bit of a lore bomb there, which I thought was cool. I think the opening cutscenes do a good job to kind of rope you in. Little things like the main menu here are broken down. Skill upgrades, of course, big component of the game, saving and loading what each character can do, like little bios for them. What a couple extra pictures and some color alongside the stripes here would have done for this manual. It would have been sick. And of course, the enemies that you're going to fight, the bosses that you're going to fight, all that fun stuff, plus a warranty on the back. EA cheat codes, they got the EA big here, because this is when they would open the game and they'd say challenge everything. I absolutely love that opening. I always got a little hype for it. But that is, ladies and gentlemen, Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, complete in box. So Lord of the Rings Return of the King is more of a great thing, basically. Like, that's trivializing it a little bit. There's more that I can get into, but really, if I'm trying to sales pitch you, that's what this is. More of Two Towers in all the best ways. You have more characters to play as, you have more levels and choices on how you want to explore them, you have more people to play with. Like, this game does more. It looks better, there's better mission mechanics. Like, it is just a phenomenal movie tie-in video game. So really what I want to start off with is the playable characters. Right away, Return of the King opens up with you playing as Gandalf. And this is immediately effective because you go, oh, I went through a whole game playing as the trio I know and love, Aragorn, Gimli, Legolas, my boy Legolas, shout out to him, always sick to play as. But you go through that trio and you're like, that's what I come to expect. Return of the King shows up and they're like, no, how about like 9 playable characters? And like one of them is Gandalf and we're going to open the game with him. And it just is so exciting again. Now, what I also love is that means that everyone has to have their own combos and their own moves. And there are certain upgrades that you can get in this game that chain across all playable characters. Some of them are shared combos, but most of them are individualized. A lot of them are like passive upgrades, like more health, more damage on your ranged attack, that sort of stuff. And all of them have different range attacks, like Gandalf's going to shoot out spells, where Legolas is, of course, going to use the bow and arrow. So there's different levels of effectiveness across all of these characters, and they all play a little bit differently, so it's fun to romp through these missions once more. But more importantly, it's so fun to romp with a friend. Like, I always remember going out to dinner with one of my best friends growing up's family and then going to his place afterwards, and we played a ton of Return of the King on a CRT, and just like, man, the memories, right? Like the memories of co-op in this game. It's unbelievable that Two Towers isn't co-op. I remember getting ready to film this video and I was like, yeah, come on over, like let's play this game together, and realizing when they got here, it's like, oh, it's a single player only. Well, I guess we'll play Return of the King, and it just elevates it so much. Like, beat 'em ups with your friends are just all-timer classic gamer experiences that you have to have under your belt, whether it's something as old as Turtles in Time or something during this generation like Lord of the Rings Return of the King. Like, romping through this style of tie-in game, it's a rite of passage to your gamer card. It's something you gotta experience because again, especially if you were there, like the hype of the movie on top of like just seeing it in a whole new light and exploring these areas and the progression and the replayability, like it's all there and it's all so hype. The other thing that's great is a little bit more fine tuning with this game. Instead of, having really easy perfect meters, it's still the same ranking system, but it takes a lot more to get there. Levels have a lot more verticality. Levels have a lot more interaction where you'll actually be like launching catapults at enemy barricades and completely knocking them over. There's a level of destructibility and scale and presence. Like, it's a really impressive movie game because, as I've said a million times on this channel before, with these movie games, especially growing up with them, sometimes you get like a 2003 Hulk where, it could definitely be way better, but it definitely was made to exist and serve its purpose of cashing in on the movie that was coming out. Or something like this game, where especially Lord of the Rings at its peak, this is Return of the King, hello, it's the end of the trilogy, and what do they do but make a phenomenal game to say goodbye to it, which is not expected. And it's obviously something that's never really left us. Nowadays, people expect the worst out of any tie-in video games. I think of that new TMNT game coming out from Outright Games, and I'm like, there's some parts of this that look okay. I can't stand these turtle designs, but like, I'm expecting the worst, and so that always sets up the very possible pleasant surprise. But I will just say that at this point in our lives, with games like Lord of the Rings Return of the King, it was never a better time to be surprised, because you would get games like this, you get games like X-Men Origins Wolverine, like you get some incredible tie-in experiences that were oftentimes better than like the full big budget games. It was kind of backwards, but awesome. And especially nowadays, you don't really get full tie-in games. Like usually you get, because gaming has grown so much, more original approaches to it. So sometimes games would be named after the movie, but they would not follow the movie at all. Lord of the Rings Return of the King did follow the movie, but it was a little bit out of order. And the way they did that is, instead of just one singular mission map, you would get this wall that you would then pick what mission you wanted to do. So you could go like to the right side, and here you would have a choice between like Aragorn and Legolas. But over here, like these were Gandalf only missions. And then you could play as like Sam or Frodo. Like they had all different mission types and characters to play as. And so it wasn't really like every character on every mission. And again, that's what made it so fun to go through, because there was a level of agency in how you'd approach it. Oh, would you look at that? The tutorial's now running behind me. You can see that's how seamless it is. They did the same thing here like they did with Two Towers. You fire the game up and it would immediately throw you, after a bunch of cutscenes and movie scenes, into the game itself and just immediately try to teach you what's going on here. Again, pulled you right in. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there's not much new to say about Return of the King. It's just more of a great thing that's been refined. The upgrade system's better, the way you progress through levels is better, the visuals are better, the combat's better. It's all simple though: light attack, strong attack, parrying, ranged attack, and that's really it. So let's wrap things up with the complete box experience for Return of the King and then get on out of here, shall we? All right, here you can see it a little bit better of what I was talking about with the Two Towers, where you have this sticker here, which is tough to see because it's very reflective, but it is an official product of the Lord of the Rings movie trilogy. So you'll actually find this across everything. Like we did a retrospective on the Third Age, and like they even had this sticker on the Game Boy Advance boxes for that game, as well as of course the GameCube version. Now here on the back it says, live the movie, be the hero, live the epic adventure. If my camera will focus, we could live the epic adventure. Play as 9 characters, including Gandalf, Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, Sam, and Frodo, and battle through 15 highly interactive levels. That's one of the biggest difference makers. Form your fellowship by teaming up online or with a friend, and you can defeat the dark forces of evil like Shelob, the King of the Dead, the Witch King, Sauron's Lieutenant, and more. Plus, again, movie exclusive. So like I said, more of what you know and love. Beautiful art here, by the way, for the cover and the manual. I love it so much. And then what about this one? Is it illustrated? Nope. Unfortunately, not. You know, they didn't go out with a bang, so to speak here. I don't know if I've ever opened a manual for Lord of the Rings that actually had illustrations in it. And it's just, again, such a missed opportunity. But again, just breaking down all of the combos that are in the game, all of the moves that you can unlock. There's an introduction section that just breaks down a little bit of the opening lore that may be required. Definitely not the best starting point, to be quite frank with you. Playing the game and getting upgrades, cooperative gameplay, and how it works. Online multiplayer is interesting because I never tried that for this generation. For me, online multiplayer really began with stuff like Xbox 360, as I think it did for many of us. It was just a lot easier to set up, a lot more understandable. But my brother did play Call of Duty online, so it was available in my house. It was like magic to me. I did not understand it. Gandalf, Aragorn, the heroes that you get to play as, they break down all the playable characters. And there are 3 secrets that are kind of silhouettes when you get to the playable menu. So who can they be? I'll leave it for you to find out. And then you hear on the back that they're promoting more things for the Lord of the Rings games, like the strategy battle game, more of the challenge, everything. Oh God, it's Gollum, but it's not the Gollum you think. It's not the bad Gollum game. And then here on the back, they're promoting one of my favorite first-person shooters from when I was younger, Medal of Honor: Rising Sun. I played that game so much on my original Xbox. But ladies and gentlemen, there you have it, a complete box copy of Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. So there you have it. These are Lord of the Rings movie games. I'm looking forward to seeing your thoughts down below. Do you have fond memories with these games, including Fellowship of the Ring, even though we'll make an exception here for this book-focused game? But let me know what you're thinking down below. Looking forward to getting your thoughts. Other than that, fire away, and I'll catch you in the next Retro Rebound. Peace out.